I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the terminology around LLMs, just because there's been a little bit of confusion, and when AI stuff is moving very quickly. So a couple of terms that everyone should know just when discussing this stuff with clients, with each other, and just making sure we're all on the same page. So as June and Greg have taught me, we'll start with the user story, which is I want my own AI model that my users can talk to, and I want it to run on our servers, and I don't want anything to be linked to Microsoft. Maybe not the world's greatest user story, but that seems to make sense. And that's the kind of thing that we've heard from some people who, potential customers, existing clients. It's not completely unreasonable to say. But there's a lot of kind of confusion in this statement. So let's just break it down a little bit by little bit. But first, why are we going to talk about this stuff again? First up, it's actually useful. Some of the AI tools, machine learning systems, the large language models, these things all kind of interrelated. They're useful. They can do useful things. We've already done pretty useful things with them for customers and clients already. So we're going to keep talking about them because they're handy. Second thing is they're cool. They're the new hotness at the moment. Everyone wants to get in on having an AI system built into their technology stack of some sort. Following what's trendy in technology is actually an important thing to do. It keeps us on our toes. It is also quite lucrative in terms of new business, right? So since March, I think we've booked over $100,000 worth of work just dedicated in the AI, mainly in the chatbot kind of space, but or the virtual assistant, AI assistant space. So it is definitely something that is good for business that we know about how to use and how to implement. And finally, there's confusion over some of these terms. In the last 2 days, I've had conversations with people who know a lot about this stuff and clients who know a lot about this, and we're sometimes talking about the same thing in a different way. And so we want to settle on some language that we will use here in Sourcetoad when we're talking about these kind of things. So first up, artificial intelligence, AI. That's the easiest one. AI does not mean any one specific thing. It is a broad term to generally say any kind of computer thing that kind of resembles and acts like a human being can be an AI, right? Any kind of thing that like simulates human intelligence. That's artificial intelligence. Makes sense, right? It's a broad category. So like this one particular piece of technology is not an AI thing. That's like saying, a truck is an automobile. Yes, that's accurate, but to call it a truck would probably be better for people who are selling trucks. Machine learning is the next one where we talk about quite a lot, right? Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, and the best way I can describe it in kind of a very high level way is you as a programmer, we're writing code that is kind of helping the machine to discover or find new algorithms to solve a particular problem. So it's generating new algorithms all the time until it finds one that finds the algorithm that actually like gives us the right answer that we want. Kind of like goal seek in Excel, if you've ever played with that, but just much more complicated. And then the large language models. Almost all the companies have llamas because of large language, whatever, in their as their logos, which I like because we like llamas here. And these are systems that kind of seem like they have more understanding. They don't actually understand things, but they take incredibly large data sets and they train a variety of types of different machine learning systems and different kinds of AI tools to create relationships between words and concepts, so that it can kind of appear to solve certain questions or have creative solutions to problems or generate code that actually runs and works. And it depends on what you feed them and how you train them, but they're basically based on very large data sets, and you can interact with them in a number of ways. One is through like an SDK or an API. That's how we interact with them a lot. And very commonly, you interact with these things through a chatbot. Everyone here has probably played with OpenAI's ChatGPT, and that is a chatbot or AI assistant, whatever we're going to call them. Probably chatbot is more accurate. And these are ways that we interact with those large language models. So a chatbot is just an interface into an LLM. We also, you've seen demos from June and Greg, where they interface with OpenAI's LLM using an API. And if you want to read that later, you can as well. There are a couple of commercial LLM and AI companies out there. We're specifically talking about LLMs today. So these are some of the big ones out there. Everyone's probably heard about OpenAI. It's the one we use the most, but there are others. OpenAI is just the cool kid in town. They're also probably the furthest along, and it's the one that we use the most, so we know the most about it. But there are others. Cohere, AI21 Labs in Israel, and Anthropic is actually pretty cool. They all have some good offerings. But those are commercial offerings. They're SaaS solutions. You pay money. You don't know how it works. It's private. You don't get to see the data it was trained on, and you just interact with it like in a box, like the same way you would with any other kind of SaaS-based API system. There are also open source systems out there that are models that are open source that you can download and even use for commercial use. So these are things that you can download the model and you can run it in your own environment. And things like Dolly and Falcon, Ganako, is that what it's, how do you pronounce it? It's a type of like animal buck canoe kind of creature thing. And Meta has something called Llama as well. So just to be confusing, most of these things have Llama. Sorry? Guanaco? Is that how to? Is it a llama?
It's a llama relative in South America.
Okay, I know like Stanford had something called alpaca. I mean, like they went crazy on taking the LLM and just extending that as far as they could push it. Yeah. Google had something, one of their models called Lambda, and just to make things more confusing, whatever. Yeah, so these are the open source models, right? So there's the ones that you could get that are commercial, and then there's the open source ones. And then if you're going to take one of the open source ones and you want to run it yourself, because you can't run a commercial one by yourself, right? That's their property, it runs in their platform. But you can take one of the open source ones, and if you pay probably quite a lot of money, because these things are very intensive on GPUs, you can go and get a service, a cloud service to go and run them. Alibaba has something called Elastic GPU Service. Microsoft Azure has something called like the N series of their servers that you can use. Linode has these GPU cloud farms, so they're all accessible if you want to try and do this. This is a lot more tricky, but you have a lot more control if you really want it. And they're probably not going to be as good or big as the things like the OpenAI ones. And then if you want, there's also platforms out there. Now, I'm going to use the word platform generically to say like, hey, here's a service that you can take one of these open source models and you click on, you can choose one and they already have them like pre-programmed. So like the same way you would install like CMS or like WordPress or something with one click on a hosting platform provider, they have the same thing. So there's a couple, Hugging Face, Mosaic, Amazon has something called Titan, NVIDIA have a platform as well called Nemo that you can do this kind of stuff on. You can just pick the model and have it run and you can interact with it. So those are the kind of platform plays. So you'll hear people say things like, hey, I really want my own model. You could probably build your own model if you had $1 billion and 100 AI computer scientists. But you can't customize a model, right? Like if you downloaded a model, you could probably tweak it and play with it and customize it. And when we talk about a commercial model, something like OpenAI, when we want to tweak it with our own data and make it do our own things, we call that fine tuning. And we had a whole talk on fine tuning. So our initial user story said, I want my own AI model that my users can talk to, and I want it to run on our servers, and I don't want anything to get leaked to Microsoft, which is an honest concern. I don't want Microsoft getting my stuff either, but they probably haven't. So we're going to just rephrase that a little bit to say something, this is kind of the language we should be using, which is I want a fine-tuned chatbot running in a simple-to-use SaaS solution that keeps my data private. And that's kind of, hopefully that'll make sense. Any questions?